I met Olivia at a friend's party 4 years ago. She was confident, ambitious, and had an infectious laugh. We connected instantly, and our relationship escalated quickly. My best friend, Nate, had been in my life since high school. We were practically brothers, having gone through everything together. When Olivia and I started dating, he was incredibly supportive, always inviting us to hang out. Looking back, maybe he was a little too supportive. About 6 months ago, things started to shift. Olivia was constantly on her phone, smiling at messages but tilting the screen away whenever I got close. She and Nate developed inside jokes that excluded me. If I brought it up, she'd roll her eyes and say, "God, don't be so insecure. We're just friends." On the night of my 28th birthday, I planned a small gathering at my apartment. I arrived home early to set up and heard voices coming from my bedroom. I recognized them immediately, Olivia and Nate. I stood frozen outside the door, my heart pounding, before finally pushing it open. There they were, in my bed, on my birthday. The worst part wasn't catching them. It was their reaction. Nate didn't even flinch. He simply smirked, making no effort to cover up. "Hey, man, we were going to tell you eventually." Olivia actually laughed. "You should see your face right now." All I could manage was, "How long?" Nate high-fived Olivia. "About 3 months. Honestly, it would have happened sooner if I'd known." He turned to her. "You said he was pathetic in bed." Olivia smirked. "Seriously, have you never wondered why I always finish watching shows after you fell asleep?" They laughed together. In my bed, on my birthday. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just nodded, turned around, and walked out. Behind me, Olivia called, "Wait! Aren't you going to say anything? Are you seriously just walking away?" I drove straight to a hotel, turned off my phone, and started making plans. What they didn't know was that Nate's company had just landed a massive deal with a client. I happened to know that the CEO was my uncle's golf buddy. Nate had been boasting about securing that account for weeks. What they also didn't realize was that Olivia's phone backed up to our shared cloud. Every message, every photo, every excuse about working late. I had it all. I spent the night making calls and compiling evidence. By morning, my phone had 43 missed calls, 28 from Olivia and 15 from Nate. Instead of responding, I sent Nate a single text. "Check your email." Attached to that email were screenshots of every inappropriate message he had sent Olivia during work hours from his company account. I CC'd his boss, the HR director, and the CEO of that big client. Once I was sure they had seen it, I went back to my apartment while Olivia and Nate were at work. I packed up Olivia's belongings, left the boxes by the door, changed my locks, reset the Wi-Fi password, and rearranged my Netflix profiles. By 2 p.m., my phone exploded with messages. Nate had been summoned into an emergency meeting with HR, his boss, and the client's representatives. The texts weren't just inappropriate. They revealed that he'd been bragging about overcharging the client, cutting corners, and planning to milk them dry before jumping to a competitor. By 4 p.m., the client had pulled their $1.2 million contract. Nate was escorted out of the building, carrying his belongings in a cardboard box. The classic walk of shame. Olivia started bombarding me with messages. "What did you do? Nate just got fired because of you. This is insane. You can't ruin someone's career over a stupid mistake. Answer your phone." Instead of responding, I forwarded Olivia's text to her sister, the ones where she admitted to trading up from me to Nate because he had better career prospects. I also included Nate's messages to his friend, where he casually mentioned he was only sticking with Olivia until something better came along. The call stopped almost instantly after that. That night, Nate showed up at my door, drunk and furious, pounding on it and screaming about how I had ruined his life. My neighbor's Ring doorbell captured the entire scene, him threatening me before eventually passing out in the hallway. The police arrived soon after, and that footage earned me an immediate restraining order. Pro tip: never issue death threats on camera. The icing on the cake, literally, was the birthday cake I had forgotten to cancel. It was delivered to my workplace, where my co-workers, oblivious to the drama, cheerfully presented it during a morning meeting. But instead of the usual happy birthday to the best boyfriend ever, the message read, "I'm leaving you for Nate. Sorry." Olivia had arranged for the customized text, planning to dump me publicly on my birthday. The cake decorator had receipts. My boss saw my reaction, ended the meeting, and gave me the rest of the week off after I explained everything. As I was leaving work, Nate's former boss reached out via LinkedIn, requesting a meeting. They wanted to know if I had any additional information regarding client mismanagement. That evening, Olivia showed up at my apartment in tears, insisting we could work through this. I simply spoke to the Ring camera. "Your stuff is by the door. You have 24 hours before it goes to Goodwill." She never came to retrieve it. After the deadline, I donated everything except for personal documents and family photos, which I mailed to her parents. Her mom actually called to apologize, hinting that Olivia had a history of behavior like this. Nate, desperate for support, turned to Olivia, expecting sympathy. She refused to let him in. According to mutual friends, he accused her of ruining his life and not being worth the trouble. In retaliation, he sent screenshots of their messages to her law firm, which had a strict morality clause. Those screenshots not only exposed their affair, but also revealed Olivia discussing confidential client information, an ethics violation of the highest order. She was immediately suspended, pending an investigation. The hotel where I stayed during my escape had a front desk clerk named Mia. When she saw my shell-shocked face, she upgraded me to a suite and sent up some hot chocolate. We chatted briefly during checkout. Yesterday, she messaged me on Instagram, recognizing me from a mutual friend's photos. She wanted to check in and see how I was doing. We met for coffee and ended up talking for hours. It wasn't romantic, just refreshing to connect with someone completely uninvolved in the chaos. I moved into a new apartment closer to work, with better security. Olivia and Nate's lives are no longer my concern. Most of our mutual friends sided with me, though I made it clear that this wasn't about choosing sides. It was about accountability. Actions have consequences. It was satisfying to know that people saw through their narrative of me being obsessive or overreacting. 3 months later, Nate's situation took a darker turn. What started as a workplace investigation escalated into serious legal charges, fraud, embezzlement, and corporate espionage. Turns out, he had been selling company secrets to competitors for years. The FBI got involved. Meanwhile, I accepted a job at his former company. It felt strange at first, but the environment was incredible, better pay, supportive colleagues, and work that actually excited me. My new boss mentioned they had implemented stricter hiring policies because of what happened. Silver linings. Last month, Olivia sent me an 8-page handwritten apology. I appreciated the effort, but some bridges are meant to stay burned. A few days later, I received a text from Nate's mom apologizing for her son's actions. She told me she would always consider me a positive influence in his life. It was a tougher conversation than I expected, considering I had known his family for over a decade. As for Mia and me, we've been dating for about a month now. It's different from any relationship I've had before. Honest, straightforward, no mind games. We're taking things slow, building a connection based on friendship and trust. Yesterday would have been my anniversary with Olivia. Instead of dwelling on it, I took a personal day, went hiking, and watched the sunset from a mountaintop. That's when I realized something important. This painful experience was actually a blessing in disguise. It forced me to rebuild my life on my own terms. Nate and Olivia thought they were hurting me. Instead, they freed me. Their betrayal was the best thing that could have happened to me. I no longer track their desperate messages. My life is just beginning.